The bad part about that is that when people decide I can't do this anymore because I actually do like carbs and I can't take it and I want that energy, guess what happens? You just put that water weight back on like that. What is up, it's your boy Johnny Shreve, IFBB Pro, Mr. Tell Like It Is. Today guys, I'm diving into how to optimize 3 of your most popular diets out there. The Carnivore Diet, the Keto Diet, and intermittent fasting. I'll be sharing my personal experience and adjustments you can make to get the best results for you. Let's get into it. Now, where did this video come from? Well, it was actually in the comment section. A few people asked me, what do you feel, how do you feel about the Carnivore Diet? How do you feel about Keto Diet? How do you feel about intermittent fasting? I've actually done them all, straight through and through, not just like kind of tested it out. I tried them. Basically practicing bodybuilding for over a decade. You tend to try to find what diet works for you. I've literally done a lot of diets, and the search for what worked best for me was basically what diet I could do that will kind of keep me satiated while being in a deficit, because that's what diets are. When it comes down to it, all diets across the board, their goal is to put you in a calorie deficit. Without further ado, we're gonna start off with the Carnivore Diet. What is the Carnivore Diet to its core? The Carnivore Diet it's all about eating animal-based foods, meats, fish, eggs, right? Eliminating mostly, if not all, plant-based foods. This means like no fruit, no vegetables, or even grains. The goal is to almost like eliminate carbs entirely and to rely mainly on fats and protein for fuel. It's kind of like keto, a little bit, right? By cutting out plant-based foods, some have reported that it actually helps reduce inflammation, better digestion, and increase in fat loss. Again, putting you in a calorie deficit. So why do people actually do this? Well, they choose to do this because most people do it because it's really simple to do. Just eat meat and fat, right? And by sometimes cutting out plant-based carbs, it helps, get rid of some of the plant-based irritants that improve your energy levels. Now, that's very anecdotal and not necessarily proven either, right? So we have to take a lot of these anecdotal experiences with a grain of salt. My experience with these diets is based solely on what one of these diets will help me basically still lose fat without being ravaging hungry. Carnivore Diet, basically for me, I love meat. I'm a meat fan in a heartbeat, 100%. I love meat. Steak, massive steak fan, massive fish fan. Well, when it comes to, salmon and, cod, love that. How do you optimize carnivore diets? Now, for me, from a coaching standpoint and seeing other people use a carnivore diet, here's some mistakes some people do make. Number one, they're eating way too much red meat, or I would say more like steak, right? They're eating too much beef, not eating enough of, if anything, more the higher rich omega meats like your fish and your eggs. Those should be majority of your carnivore diet if you really want to make it extremely healthy, right? Or more optimal in a sense. And then making sure that you're getting good fats. It's a misconception is eating just like steak and then a bunch of butter. And then they're not getting the proper amount of nutrients because they're eating mostly like, beef and then butter or oils, and it's just not well-rounded. To make it a lot more optimal, again, omega-3 rich meats and your eggs, and then make sure you have some like good cuts of your chicken and then some clean cuts of steak. When it comes down to it, do I agree with carnivore diet? I tried it before. Now, how did I try this? Basically, what I did for my day was I knew that meat and fat kept me fairly satiated. Even right now, I'm kind of like almost like carnivore in the morning and regular at night. Now, when I look at diet approaches, I always say this before I really dive fully into this. Diets have the base of what their goal is in terms of like what's the fundamentals or the foundation of the diet. Like, carnivore, eat more meat and fat, less greens, etc. But when it comes down to it, again, it's just putting you in a deficit. And you don't have to follow it to a T. You have to follow the principle of the deficit to a T if you want to lose fat. But when it comes down to it, you can change diets to suit you. You can take the essence of each diet, whichever one you want to do, and then make it fit you. I'm always about making fitness fit your life, not your life fit fitness, because it's just not going to work that way. So for me, and maybe this might help for others, the holes in the carnivore diet for me was like, I love fruit. I love fruit and I do like vegetables. Now, when it comes down to it, eating, lower carb vegetables, basically do this. Stick to those really rich antioxidant fruits, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Love those. Absolutely amazing for your digestion and antioxidants. When it comes to your vegetables, the ones I love, asparagus, broccoli. I love baked asparagus, baked broccoli. If you're a fan of like spinach and kale, those are great options too. And cauliflower flour, adding those to the carnivore diet, I know it will kind of like, by definition, it's no longer a carnivore diet, but when it comes down to it, you're still going to be in a deficit. You're still getting the benefits of having really good, rich high omega meats and protein, reaping the benefits of the antioxidants from your fruits that I just said, and then having good fiber from both your fruits and your vegetables. That alone for me made things that much better. Now, the keto diet. Keto diet is one of those very tricky ones that most people, I believe, aren't really even doing a keto diet. Why do I say that? Well, because in order for you to actually do a keto diet, you have to be in a state of ketosis. And what does that mean? Well, basically, keto diet focuses on high fats, moderate protein, and low carb intake, right? The goal is to push the body into a state called ketosis. It's where you're burning fat for energy instead of carbs. And you're like, what does that mean? Well, for the most part, our body's main source of energy is glucose. Our muscles, our skeletal muscle, our muscle is like the biggest depot for glucose. So when we go into a state of ketosis, we're basically using fat as energy instead of carbs as energy, to make it simple, right? So basically by reducing carbs drastically, I'm talking like around like no more than 50 grams per day, your body relies on fat stores to produce energy. So how does it basically work, right? Ketosis is when your body produces ketones. And I could say ketosis to ketones, you could probably be like, what the heck are you talking about? Make it kind of simple in a sense to get this. Let's put it this way, let's make it simple. If you eat like rice or potatoes or fruit or whatever, right? Carbs, your body takes carbs and you swallow the carbs and it goes in your stomach, it breaks it down in intestines and it delivers it and turns it into basically glucose. And then that glucose is a form of energy, which is also like, glycogen is also a form of energy as well too. So glucose is glycogen stored into your muscle, and you use that glucose or glycogen for, building muscle, for muscle contractions and all good stuff, right? Your body uses glucose for energy. Well, when your body has no glucose basically to use, like you're eating like 50 grams of carbs, it takes about a couple weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks for your body to actually go into a state of ketosis. Basically, your body kind of switches over into using fat as energy, right? You're in a caloric deficit, you're eating less carbs, so you're getting a lot less water retention. And for the first bit, trust me, I did it before, for the first bit of it, you feel like crap. You just feel super tired. You're just tired, you're kind of sluggish. And then literally when it kicks in, you do feel like you have a lot more energy, sustainable energy overall. The problem with it is that most people can't get to that actual state of ketosis. They'll do it for a bit and they'll feel like, oh man, I'm tired. And then all of a sudden they're eating more than 50 grams of carbs. So they're not really necessarily in a state of ketosis. Or you might eat like processed, fatty, sealed, packaged keto snacks. Those ones that act like they're keto diet, they're keto snacks when they literally have more carbs than you need, then all of a sudden you're not in a state of ketosis anymore. Now, again, when it comes to keto diets, they don't necessarily have so much success because, again, people end up feeling sluggish and they end up like kind of bailing on the process in the first place. Now, again, when we're looking at this, all diets just put you in a caloric deficit. And for most people who are like, I did keto before, you probably heard this before. I used to do keto. I did keto before, man. I lost a lot of weight, man. I lost, and you probably did lose a lot of weight, but you probably lost a lot of water weight too. Because when you basically cut out carbs or you eat drastically no carbs, like if you eat only 50 grams, every 1 gram of carb has 2 to 3 grams of water. If you're eating 150 grams of carbs, you're getting about 3 to 450 grams of water with it. That will literally sit subcutaneous, basically under the skin. It'll show, that water will show. So when you cut out 100 grams of carbs and you're now only eating 50, you basically just drop 200 to 300 grams of water. So you'll definitely see the physiological changes just because of the water, just because of that water weight, putting you into a deficit, so to speak, and then being in a caloric deficit in a sense too. The bad part about that is that when people decide, I can't do this anymore because I actually do like carbs and I can't take it and I want that energy, guess what happens? You just put that water weight back on like that. So if you're gonna do a keto diet, understand that that's going to happen. Now, how did this work out for me? Dieting a couple shows is basically in ketosis at the end of prep. The easiest way for me to lose fat at the end of prep was for me to get into that place of ketosis. My hunger was basically not as bad after feeling sluggish, whatnot, but again, at the end of prep, you're sluggish anyway. And that's basically how that was introduced into my life as a tool for dieting. Now, again, I use it as a tool for dieting for a show. So that's pretty extreme. Did it work for me? Not necessarily, but again, you can take some of the fundamentals of a keto diet and just use that and adjust it your way. And I did the same thing. And how to do that? I just would eat less carbs. carbs. I wouldn't cut out to no carbs. I would eat just a lot less carbs. And that helped out. I would still get the benefits of having some glucose energy from carbs from the diet itself. And I would be in a caloric deficit. It doesn't have to be this extreme diet. The best diet is the one that you can stick to. And the one that you can stick to just might be the one that you gotta kind of like Frankenstein together that makes it work for you. Before we get on to intermittent fasting, if you're looking to optimize your nutrition or need a personalized plan, hit me up for some online coaching, guys. Hit the link in the description below, johnshrevefitness.com. Fill that application and jump on a 50-minute video call with myself. We'll go over your goals and see what we can achieve together. Last but not least, the final diet, which is actually the name of my ebook, which is on my site, johnshreve.com. Intermittent fasting. Now, here are the basic principles of intermittent fasting. Very popular one. Intermittent fasting necessarily isn't a diet, but it's an eating schedule. Now, again, it's still somewhat of a diet because it's still going to put you in a deficit. It kind of helps you control how much you eat. Basically, you cycle between fasting and eating windows, right? The most popular method is basically the 16-8, which means you fast for 16 hours, you have an eating window of 8 hours. Or you do the 24, which is like nuts. It's basically fast for 20 hours and then you eat in a 4-hour window. How it works, basically, fasting apparently lowers your insulin levels, which encourages fat burning. It also simplifies meal planning and it can help with caloric control, which it can. Is it proven? Kinda. More anecdotal. Again, you have to take some of these diets with a grain of salt. There are benefits in intermittent fasting. Some benefits are it's great for improving your metabolic health. It enhances fat loss and is simply in simplifying a daily routine. Now, do I really believe that? I think it can, right? When it comes to like, improving your metabolic health, if you're eating a lot of food, if you're, say your eating's out of control, I don't know, you just started a diet, you're not eating anything for 16 hours a day, you're probably gonna lose some fat. Yeah, for sure, it's probably easier to food prep because you're gonna make basically a few meals in between an eating window. But the problem when it comes to this diet, I find, especially when I cut other clients that have been on this diet, it's daggone hard. Like, if you put it this way, if you do the 24, if you fast for 20 hours and you feed for 4, and you gotta say eat 3,000 calories in 4 hours. Eating 3,000 calories in whole foods is gonna be hard, right? It's gonna be very hard. And even when you're eating in an 8-hour window, for the most part, what happens is that people eat kind of pretty good and then they end up eating like crap to fill the rest of the calories. It's usually what happens. Here's my experience doing intermittent fasting. Basically what happened for me was it happened quite naturally, right? When I started my ADD medication, my appetite absolutely torched. I would literally get up and it would be like, I wouldn't eat from the night before, and it probably wouldn't be until maybe 4 or 5 o'clock at nighttime before I actually ate a meal. I was like, natural, I was like, you know what? I might as well just start intermittent fasting because this makes sense because I don't have an appetite. Eating food at that time was hard for me to eat food. It's only a few years ago. And then so I just tried intermittent fasting. What happened? Well, admittedly so, exactly what I explained. I would eat, my healthy amounts of food. I would eat, my dinner, which is whole foods. It would be, your rice of some sort, a grain of some sort, whether it be rice or pasta or potatoes, and it would be like a protein source, steak, mostly steak, maybe chicken thighs, then obviously veggies, and I would do that, and then be like, oh, I have a lot more food to eat left. I'd be like, oh, I have more food to eat left because that meal's maybe about 600 calories and a lot of food, and I'd end up eating crap at the end. Probably how the Oreo thing came into play. Damn Oreos. When it came down to it, it didn't work for me. I realized that very quickly that I was just kind of compensating for the rest of the calories of eating crap food. So how do I make this better for myself? Well, simple. I kind of combined my carnivore diet habits with my intermittent fasting habits. I put them together. Again, this is like making fitness fit your life. Knowing that my appetite's not that good in the morning, I would have a shake or my meal before I had my Vyvanse. Or when I got back from training and I knew my appetite was kind of torched at the time, I would have basically my shake, and my shake would be loaded. This time now my shake is loaded with 2 scoops of Iso Smooth with like maybe 2.5 scoops of almond butter. I would have a handful or a cup of blueberries, almond milk, blend it up, hit it back, and it was really good because texture for me, perfect. Then the next meal would be that meat, veggie, and fat meal. I would have like either like maybe like a steak or chicken, maybe mostly like a steak or chicken, and then asparagus or baked asparagus or baked broccoli in like midday, and then at nighttime I would have the rest of my calories. Now, when it comes to you guys, the holes with intermittent fasting is this. If you don't eat anything for 16 or 20 hours, you're missing your great windows of protein. Now, when it comes down to optimal protein consumption or just basically protein absorption, whatever, it's basically 3 to 5 meals a day of protein. It doesn't have to be 5. It can be 3 or 5 meals, depending on how you want to do it. When it comes down to it, you don't want to miss 16 hours of no protein or 20 hours of no protein. That's gonna work against you. These diets aren't written in stone. Again, the diet's goal is to keep you in a caloric deficit or to help you maintain or control your eating. That's basically what it is. So here's what you do. Simple. If you wanna really keep it as close to intermittent fasting as you possibly can, just have smaller little windows of protein consumption, right? For you, it could be, instead of like a shake like I have, maybe it's like a scoop of protein in water if you wanna keep it that basic. Or maybe a scoop in some almond milk or whatever. Egg whites or a couple eggs, or just like a smaller portion of protein in like the morning, then maybe another smaller protein in the afternoon. And then you have your actually feeding window of that 8 hours or that 4 hours. And then that intermittent fasting is that much more optimal. When it comes down to it, diet's goal is to put you in a caloric deficit. You can adjust your diet just like I did and make sure that it fits your life, number one. Two, it's gonna aid your fitness goals. So if you wanna build muscle, sustain muscle, make sure we're getting enough protein throughout the day, no matter what the diet says. And then again, making sure we're fueled around the times that we need fuel when we're training. Anyway, these are things that I've learned from my own trial and error and even coaching my clients. And I'm all about optimizing, not just following trends. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Hope it gave you more clarity. And again, if you're at the beginning of your fitness journey or you've already made some great progress, but you don't know how to continue that progress, hit the link in the description below, johnnyshoefitness.com. Get on that 50-minute video call with me. We'll go over your goals and see what we can achieve together. And guys, check it out. Hit up johnnyshoe.com for all things related to one-time plans, training splits, ebooks, merch, and video consultations with myself. We can talk about anything fitness related or even mental health. Also, use my code Johnny10 for 10% off BlueStarNutraceuticals.com. Until next time, you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.